Hello everyone, this is Guy. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss out on more interesting stories. Settle in and get comfortable, because we're starting now. Why am I driving to my mother's house at 11 o'clock at night in the pouring rain? Why are my husband and children safe and dry at home, probably already asleep in their beds? Why did Bradley threaten to divorce me? I haven't even done anything. What the hell is going on? Why won't anybody talk to me? My name is Emma Smith. Except, of course, professionally. I practice under my maiden name, Johnson. My husband, Bradley, never objected to that. He understood how important it was to me that I earned my degrees and certifications in clinical psychology under my own name, before we got married. He was always supportive, and that's why we didn't have the ceremony until I was 26. That day, just over 9 years ago, was probably the happiest day of my life. We had the perfect wedding, not too big, not too small, and all of our families were there. My father, Jim, is one hell of a dancer. He'd been taking lessons for something like 15 years. That's how he met his wife, Grace. Technically she's my stepmom, but I was already 17 when they first met, so she didn't have a hand in raising me. My mother, Linda, was also there, with her fourth husband, Glenn. Having them all together at the wedding was a major feat of diplomacy, but it went smoothly. I even saw Mom sitting at a table with Dad and Grace while I was dancing with Bradley, after the father-daughter dance. We wanted to start our family right away, since we'd waited to get married. Braylon is 8, and Caden is 6. A girl and a boy, 2 years apart, just like me and my younger brother Tommy. I know it's silly, but it makes me feel like I accomplished everything correctly. They're at home now, and I'm not. I should go back. Fuck this. I don't know why I should have to do this. I belong in my house, with my family, and Bradley needs to just get over his hurt feelings and accept what's going to happen. I need to go back home. I need to make things right with him. But I can't. I'm not welcome. I should explain. I arrived home early, as I'd planned. I had the groceries I needed for Bradley's favorite dinner, my mom's meatloaf recipe, believe it or not, and a nice bottle of red wine. Idaho potatoes, sour cream, chives, Wisconsin cheddar cheese, and Brussels sprouts. I know, lots of people don't like them, but I roast them with olive oil and a little salt and pepper, and they're just perfect. Key lime pie for dessert. Oh, and a few delicate little things I'd picked up at Victoria's Secret that Tuesday, so we'd spend the weekend making things special before I left for my conference, the one he didn't know about, yet. The one I was planning on telling him about after dinner. It took me almost an hour to get everything ready. While the meatloaf was in the oven, I cleaned off the table and vacuumed the dining room, put out the good place settings, and had time to shower, do my hair and makeup, and slip into my new blue dress. The color really brings out my eyes. I dressed it up with a necklace Bradley had given me for our 5th anniversary. The kids liked my meatloaf okay, but I had to make mac and cheese for them, since they wouldn't eat the potatoes or the sprouts. The moment he arrived home having picked up the kids, it was showtime. Braylon and Caden ran around like the little tornadoes of chaos that they are, and we were barely able to get their shoes changed and their things put away before dinner. I plated their food and had them sat down and was decanting the wine when Bradley joined us, with one eyebrow questioningly raised. I just smiled at him. I beamed the most sunshine-filled smile full of love and adoration I could muster at him. It only made him look more worried. Everyone was delighted and happy, they all praised my cooking, the kids ate like Tasmanian devils, and even enjoyed a small piece of key lime pie each. Caden didn't like his, he said it tasted sour. Braylon finished it for him. After we plopped the kids in front of a movie, their favorite movie, which they'd watched 1,000 times already, Bradley nudged me back into the dining room. He'd already cleared the table and filled the dishwasher. He had the last of the red wine in a glass in front of me, and he poured himself a finger of Glenmorangie, neat. He'd picked up the habit from my father years ago. So, he took his seat. Are you going to tell me what this was all about? Aren't I allowed to surprise my husband with a lovely dinner? Oh yes. You absolutely are. I've enjoyed every moment of this evening. The meal was perfect. You are beautiful. Stunning, even. You've clearly gone all out. But it's not my birthday, or yours. It's not our anniversary, our dating anniversary, Valentine's Day, sweetest day, or anything like that. As far as I can tell, it's just a Friday night. What is the occasion? Okay, you got me, I said, blinking coquettishly. I may need a little favor from you next week. I see. What sort of a favor? Well, I'm going to a conference. In Chicago. It's 4 days, Tuesday through Friday. I'll fly out Monday evening, and I'll be back Saturday afternoon. So I'm afraid you're going to play at being a single dad for a little while. His face darkened. I'd have to step it up. In the meantime, Tiger, I'm going to spend the whole weekend rocking your world. And when I get back, lover, I lean forward, giving him a healthy peek down my dress, I'm going to rock it, twice, as hard. I'd drawn my words out across my lips as slowly and sensuously as I could. Ha. He nodded skeptically. And why am I only hearing about this now? It just came up. It's a conference. Those things are organized a year or more in advance. Well, I was only just invited. Aha. I couldn't help but hear you say I'm going. Not I'm thinking of going, or would it be alright if I go, or I told them I'd have to check with my husband, or anything like that. You're going, period. No matter what I have to say. And I'm the last one to know about it. It's not like that, honey. It's not like that at all. Oh? What is it like? You don't need to feel hurt, okay? It's just this once. I'll make it up to you. Whatever it takes. That was apparently the wrong thing to say. He stood up before I could stop him. He waved his hands down at me, indicating I should stay seated. Shit, he said. Shit, shit, shit. Fuck. His wide-open eyes squeezed themselves shut and I could tell his mind was going a mile a minute. Honey. SHHHH. Not one more word. Not one more goddamn word. He was shaking. Baby. No. He nearly shouted it. Damn it, I did not want the kids hearing us fight. I guess he didn't either, because he quickly dialed it down. No. 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 Do not speak. Okay. Okay. Here's what's going to happen right now. You're going to put the kids to bed when the movie is done. I'm going to do what I gotta do. I need a few minutes to get my head together. This conversation is not over. Okay? Bradley. Not. Over. His knuckles were white, gripping the top of the dining room chair. He shook his head, turned on his heel, and went upstairs. Well, shit. That didn't go as planned. He spent the next 20 minutes stomping around the house like a caged tiger, looking at his phone. He'd furiously read something, swear under his breath, stomp around some more, and then do it again. He made a call at one point and left a voicemail. I only heard him say, "It's Bradley. She's pulling a Linda. Right now. It's happening now. Please call me the instant you get this." What the hell? Pulling a Linda? What did my mom have to do with it? It wasn't much later that his phone rang and he stepped outside the house to take the call, glaring at me. He clearly didn't want me, or the kids, to hear any of it. He came back inside after the call, his phone rang again, and he stepped back outside. The kids seemed confused, but not bothered by his behavior. As the movie was wrapping up, he went into the kitchen and I heard his coffee grinder going. Braylon and Caden gave me surprisingly little of their usual resistance to their bedtime routine, brushing their teeth and getting into jammies without a fuss, somehow knowing that something was up. I myself was trembling like a spooked kitten the whole time. What was he so upset about? What did he know? Who was he talking to? Why was he talking about Mom? With the children bedded down, I came downstairs to find Bradley back at the table with a full carafe of coffee, 2 mugs, and a large Yeti cup. "Sit," he said. I did. He poured the coffee. "I don't want any coffee, Bradley. It'll keep me up all night." "That's the idea. You're going to need it." "No. Tell me what's going on in your head." "I will if you will, dear wife." "Nothing's going on. I swear." "You're getting all upset over nothing. It's just a conference. Just one conference. Just one event. Just once. Because this is something you need to do, for your sake. Is that right?" "Yes, exactly." "Shit." He took a swig of his thick black brew. "It's worse than I thought." "What's worse than you thought?" "The coffee?" He looked at me as if I'd blasphemed. His coffee was perfect, of course. That was his thing. He had thousands of dollars worth of gleaming steel coffee equipment in the kitchen, and I didn't know how to use half of it. I wasn't even allowed to touch the espresso machine. "No. The coffee is fine. Look. Before we begin, do you think that I'm stupid?" "No, of course not." "Are you sure? You're the one with the graduate degree. You're the psychologist. Don't you think you're a lot smarter than me?" "Bradley, no. Do you have any respect for me at all?" "Of course. Let's be clear. Do you respect me as a husband? As a partner? As a man? As a human being? Any of that?" "All of that. And more. So much more. Bradley. You're my husband. You're a great man. You're my partner, you're my love. You're my best friend. You're the most important thing in my life, and I'm so unbelievably lucky to have you." "Okay. I'm going to ask you to remember that." Oh dear. This was not going it all the way I'd hoped. It probably showed. "All right. We're starting now, Emma. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm going to demand honesty from you. Not half-truths. Not shades of gray. Not just what you think I could handle, or in the words designed to make it easier or more palatable for me. I deserve at least that much from you. Agreed?" "Honey, I don't see." "Agreed? You don't need to be. This is going to be a very short goddamned conversation if you keep that up, Emma." Okay. Agreed. Good. Before you answer anything, please understand that I know more than you think I do about what's going on. I don't know everything, but it's enough to matter. Also, please understand that you know less than you think. As you said, I am not a stupid person, and you do respect me. So, if you lie, or prevaricate, or try to make this go the way you want, it's not going to go well. I would never lie to you, honey. You would, however, lie to yourself. What on earth are you talking about? Okay. So it begins. When were you invited to this conference? How long have you known, before you told me tonight? It only just happened. Before today? Yes. Before today. Before Tuesday? Tuesday? Why'd he say Tuesday? Yes. So, more than enough time to make your plans for this lovely evening. You decided this was the best way to soften me up for it. Honey, it's not. It's not like that. His silence was more of a condemnation than anything he might have said. Let's try this again. Who invited you? A colleague. Oh, bravo. I see this is going to take a while. Who's paying for you to attend? I'll reimburse them. That's not an answer. One more time. Who arranged the fee, the airfare, and the hotel? I've already been through our account statements for the last 3 months. Either you planned it a long time ago, or you have secret accounts you're using to hide stuff from me, Or, some colleague of yours is spending a huge wad of money on you being there. Bradley. I can see you're upset. I can even understand why. I promise you, you have nothing to worry about. I promise. Is Richard Taylor going to be at the conference? What? I felt the color drain out of my face. He knows, Emma, you idiot, he knows, said a voice deep inside my head. Shut up. I told it right back. He doesn't know anything, not for certain. And if he doesn't know, it won't hurt him. It doesn't count. It won't mean anything. Simple question. Is Richard Taylor going to be there? I don't know. I suppose he might be there, yes. Well, I would hope so. He's presenting a paper on Wednesday. Bradley tapped his phone and spun it around on the table so I could read it. He'd found the conference's agenda online. Shit. Oh. You didn't know? This is a complete surprise? What with you and Richard being such good friends and close colleagues, one would think he'd have told you about it. This is a pretty important and prestigious conference, after all. It's a tremendous honor. A real feather in his cap, professionally speaking. Surely it must have come up. Okay. Yes, I knew about it. I guess it must have just slipped my mind. Emma. Stop it. Stop what? He just glared at me for a moment. Stop confabulating. I had to force myself to remember that no, my husband is not stupid. He was correct to remind me of that at the start of this confrontation. But I didn't have anything else to say. Let's review, said Bradley. Some time ago, weeks, or maybe months, your handsome older colleague, a real ladies' man who's been trying to scheme his way into your panties since the moment you met, invited you on an all-expense-paid 5-night romantic vacation getaway to the big city. You immediately said yes, but decided to spring it on your stupid cuckold of a husband at the last possible moment, distracting me with sex, food, and romance, with the promise of more to come, and shackling me with the children so that I couldn't stop you. It's not like that at all. The hell it isn't. I asked you not to lie to me, or to yourself, remember? I'm not lying. How long have you been fucking him? I'm not fucking him. Okay, how long has he been fucking you? He hasn't. How long have you been fucking anyone other than me? I'm not. What's the state capital of California? What? Just checking to make sure you're still on this planet. I am. My head was whirling like a cyclone. How much does he know? He can't know any of this. I haven't fucked Richard yet. He must know that much. He's got to believe me. He's my husband. He's got to have faith in me and believe what I tell him. Capital of California? He was resolute. Sausalito. Sacramento. Shit, that's right. You're smarter than this, Emma. You're a lot smarter than this. Your affair fog is making you dumb. I'm not having an affair. Maybe not. Maybe it's just that you're not fucking him yet. Shit. Aha. There it is. There what is? That look. The one on your face. The one that indicates extreme guilt. Look. Bradley. You've got it all wrong. Okay? Yes, Richard invited me to the conference. He asked me to be his guest 6 weeks ago. I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but I didn't want you to take it the wrong way. He is paying for everything, but I'll have my own room. We're staying in separate rooms. I'll pay him back if it's that important to you. And it really is an important conference. It would benefit my career to be there. It would benefit both of us, you and me. And nothing is going to happen. You can trust me. Bradley. I'm your wife. I love you. I love you and only you. I would never betray you like that. Bradley reached for his mug and slowly took a sip. He only ever took it black, just like he only drank his whiskey neat. He said he didn't want anything getting in the way of the really high-quality stuff. You already have. I have not. By going behind my back and planning all this, yes, you have already betrayed me. By conspiring, keeping secrets, lying, and obscuring the truth about what's going on, by playing me for a fool, for abusing my trust, yes. It's betrayal. To what degree, well, that's yet to be determined, but you have definitely crossed that line. I took a deep breath. I could still win this. I hadn't done anything wrong. Yet. Shut up, voice. Bradley. I swear to you, on whatever you like. On my life, on the lives of our children. I was not planning on having sex with Richard Taylor. You weren't planning not to. You have no defenses in place. You've done your best to hide everything from me. You set yourself up for it and figured you'd see how it goes. Maybe planning to have sex with him isn't the right word. Maybe you're just expecting to. He's not wrong. There it is again. More guilt. Bradley. I have no more words. Who was all that lingerie for? For you. Shit. Tuesday. He saw the charges. It was for you. For this weekend, and for when I get back. Mostly. Right. And you weren't going to pack any of it for your trip? There was absolutely zero chance that Richard would see a special little something? There was nothing at all from your shopping spree that might or might not have been just for him? No. Yes. Emma. I have no reason to believe you, and plenty of reason not to. I don't know how to say it, Bradley. You have to believe me. You have nothing to worry about. Actually, yes, he has plenty to worry about. I think I do. And the fact that I even think so means you have something to worry about, too. He set down his mug. Here is what's going to happen. As of today, as of right this minute, I'm kicking you out of the house. You don't live here anymore, and you're not welcome here. I'll give you time to pack a bag, and you can collect the rest of your stuff later. You're going to drive to your mother's, where you are going to have a long conversation with her about how a married woman should or should not behave if she wishes to remain married. You'll be spending the night with Tom and Bernice. I've already called them, they're expecting you. Don't be ridiculous. You can't do that. Ridiculous, eh? No, what's ridiculous? Running off on a honeymoon with some other guy and expecting your dumb husband to just sit back and take it. That is ridiculous. Fortunately for me, this family has experience with this kind of thing. I was specifically warned about it. So, you are going to see your mother tonight, and you are going to learn from that experience. If you fail to do so, this marriage is already over. You can't possibly be serious. As a heart attack. You can't make me. You're my husband, not my owner. Aha. Well, you're right about that. I don't own you. I don't control you. I figure you're going to do whatever you damn well please, regardless of what I have to say. But that door opens in both directions. If I don't like what you're doing, you can't stop me from divorcing your ass either. What? You can't mean that. It's not just about you, Emma. This is a marriage. This is a partnership. If you step out of that partnership, then you're not my partner anymore. Simple as that. We work together, or we don't work out as a team. I can't believe you'd bring up divorce so casually. I haven't even done anything. You won't divorce me over going to a conference. I'm divorcing you anyway. I've decided. We're done. I might as well go for the nuclear option, since you've already killed us. We'll figure out the house and the kids and the money and everything later. I'm getting a lawyer tomorrow, and you can expect to be served sometime next week, I guess. If you want me not to do any of that, if you want it to stop, then you're going to do what I've told you. Go see your mother. Now. It's... Oh, come on. I wouldn't even get there by midnight. She'll be waiting up for you. He picked up his phone and tapped it a few times. Was he sending a message? I talked to her 20 minutes ago. She knows what it's about. My phone rang. You should get that, he said. I looked. It was Mom. Shit. Hi. Mom. What's up? Emma. Get in your car and get over here as soon as you can, or you won't have a husband to come home to when you get back from Chicago. Mom, this isn't that serious. He's kidding. Emma Louise Johnson Smith, he is not kidding. You have no idea what's going on. None. This situation is out of your control. Do you hear me? Out of your control. I've been married 5 times now. 5. Trust me, I know what divorce looks like. Now do as he says, or you'll spend the rest of your life looking back on Bradley as your first husband. I'm baking cookies. I'll see you in a few hours. Drive safe. I love you. She ended the call. Holy fucking shit. My phone rang again. It was my brother Tommy. Bradley must have sent another message. Tommy? Jesus Christ, sis, you really stepped in it, didn't you? Listen, we've still got the other room set up as a nursery, but there's a nice bed in there, and Bern and I are still co-sleeping the baby. So that's all yours as long as you need it. I don't know how much time you'll spend with Mom, but just call me when you're on your way over. Don't worry about waking us, we don't really sleep anyway with all the feedings. I'm not coming over, Tommy. You don't have to. Oh yes you are. This is not up for debate. If I don't see you here by tomorrow morning at the latest, I won't see you at all. You won't be my sister anymore. You're not going to be my kid's godmother, either. Don't you dare ask us to take your side over Bradley's, 'cause we won't. He's in the right about this one. Nobody wants to see you fall to the family curse. Now get moving. I'll be taking everybody out for IHOP tomorrow. He hung up. I just stared at Bradley. What the fuck did you say to them? I told them the truth, he said, getting up from his chair. And they were extremely helpful. They had more than a few insights to share. Finish your coffee and pack a bag. I'll make you one of those double-shot caramel lattes that you like, for the road. He picked up the Yeti cup, then turned and looked at me. I'll handle the kids. I'll tell them as much of the truth as is appropriate. I'll bring my family up to speed tomorrow, too. I'll hold off on calling Chuck and Bethany, but only because I don't want it to get back to your father right away. It's gonna kill him when he finds out. Jim's a good man, and he's seen too much of this in his life. He'd rather die than see it happen to you, too. What the hell? What are you talking about? And what was Tommy saying about a family curse? That, my dear soon-to-be ex-wife, is what you need to talk to Linda about. After the 1 coffee with extra skim milk and 2 Splendas I had on my way out the door, a 16-ounce Yeti cup of double-shot non-fat caramel latte, 1 stop for fuel and 2 more for bathroom breaks, I pulled into Mom's driveway at 10 minutes past midnight. The garage door rolled open for me and I parked in the empty bay. Ha! Where was Doug's car? Glad you made it, honey, Mom said. Happier than you know. God. If you hadn't come. She shook her head. Well. That would not have been good. Come on in. The cookies are in the kitchen. Would you like some tea? At 60, Mom was still a handsome woman. She still had her figure, gracefully aged though it was. Her posture was amazing. Despite having had 2 children, she looked like she'd never be touched with osteoporosis. Her dark hair was shot through with gray, but still shiny and beautifully styled. And her eyes were as deeply blue as ever. Like mine. I hoped to look half as good at her age. She started pouring tea, even though I hadn't said I wanted any. Nothing with caffeine, please. I'm jittery enough. Bradley made me drink a coffee and a double shot. This is chamomile. You'll be fine. She looked me up and down. You were wearing that dress tonight when you had your conversation with Bradley? Yeah. He didn't let me get changed when he hustled me out the door. He just made me throw some things into a bag and kicked me out. Oh, dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What? What's wrong with the dress? I look good in blue. I know, honey. I do too. But a dress like that, well, I suppose it's too much to be a coincidence. What coincidence? What did Tommy mean about a curse? What is going on? Why isn't anybody talking to me? She handed me a plate with some cookies on it. Ginger snaps. Homemade. She carried a tray with a teapot and 2 proper bone china teacups. Come into the sitting room and make yourself comfortable. I'll tell you everything. The screen was on, showing a paused football game, which surprised me. Mom never watched football. If anything, she avoided it. Where's Doug? His car wasn't in the garage. And why do you have football on if he's not here? That's part of it, I suppose. Doug doesn't usually spend the night here. He's with Brian. His friend Brian? But why? You mean he's gay? Yes. They've been together almost 20 years. They were already a couple when I met Doug. But then, why? Why are you married to him? It's a complicated story. I needed to be married. Doug did, too. I know, gay couples get married all the time now. It's accepted in a way that was unthinkable when we were younger. But at our age? Well, there are all kinds of closets. There are closets within closets. Doug never really fully came out to himself. He doesn't think of himself as gay, even though he is, and he knows it, and even admits it. But that's not what he sees in the mirror. He would never live the lifestyle of a gay man, or as part of a publicly gay couple. He just doesn't have it in him. Don't get me wrong, he doesn't think there's any shame in it. It's just not who he is. In order to feel complete, I guess, he needs to be married to a woman. He thinks of his relationship with Brian as a kind of an exception. They're very much in love. It's very sweet to see. And I'm very happy for him, I'm happy for them both. I'm what people used to call a beard. It's very old-fashioned. Lesbians and gay men would marry each other and live together to fulfill society's expectations, but they'd have their private lives outside the marriage. Oftentimes, the arrangements were very friendly, even affectionate, even if they never were romantic. But, then, why do you do it? You're not gay, are you? No, dear. I'm not. I'm just a terrible, terrible wife. What? How can you say that about yourself? Because it's the truth. I destroyed every one of my 4 other marriages by being selfish, insensitive, mulehead, and even cruel. None of my husbands deserved what they got from me. I took each of them for granted and walked roughshod all over their hearts. That's especially true of your father. A few lonely tears ran down her face along well-traveled tracks. I still love that man. I always have. I think you know that. Yes, I guess I do. I mean, the two of you don't have much to do with each other. But I think I've seen it over the years. Well, you love Bradley. I do. Then don't end up like me. She looked up at me. Don't be like me. Please. At that point, she broke down crying. Mom. I don't understand. Don't be like you? Don't be like what? What's going on? After a moment, she stood up. I tried to join her, but she shooed me back into my seat. I have to go get something. I have to show you. Stay right there. I heard her rustling around in one of her spare bedrooms. While she was gone, I looked at the screen. It wasn't showing the game, it was paused on a shot of 2 commentators, handsome men in their late 50s or early 60s. They'd probably been football players themselves, back in their prime years, before their bodies softened and slowly went to seed. Mom came back with a blue dress and a clear plastic dry cleaning sleeve. It wasn't exactly the same as the one I had on. The cut was completely different, but the skirt was nearly the same length, and the color was almost an exact match. I was wearing this the night I ended my marriage to your father. That was almost 30 years ago, now. I don't know why I keep it. Maybe it's to remind me of what a fool I am. Maybe because it takes me back to my time with Jim. Or maybe because it's a nice dress and it made me feel beautiful. I only wore it one other time, on my birthday that year. I ended up making everything worse. Since then, I could never bear to put it on again. It was February. The weather had locked the city down. We were snowed in half the time, and we barely saw the sun. I bought this dress to go out for Valentine's Day that year, but our plans had to be cancelled. We ended up staying in with the two of you, and Jim never saw the dress. To make things worse, it was a leap year, so we had an extra day of that dreadful month. At the time, I was friends with a group of women and their husbands. I don't even remember all their names, now. As couples, we were all polite and jovial, but when it was just us girls, well, you never saw such a scheming, cackling, backstabbing coven of shrews. We were always going on about what sluts we'd be whenever the right stud came along. One girl, Dee, made a habit of stepping out on her husband and then bragging about it to the rest of us. Another one of us was making plans to have an affair with a coworker, and we all conspired to help her. Thankfully, her man wised up and it never got that far. I never actually D any of that, until the day I did. There was a local sports hero who liked to go out to bars and clubs where he'd prey upon married women, snatching them away from their husbands. I think that humiliating the men was the part he enjoyed the most. He'd take the ladies back to his hotel suite and give them the fucking of their lives, trying to ruin them for all other men forever. He was a real hunk. He was big and strong and rich and famous and powerful, so he could get away with it, over and over again. His hunting grounds were a kind of an open secret for women who wanted to be chosen. I have no idea how many marriages he destroyed, but it was more than a few. He'd made a game of it. One of those places was a dinner dance hall that had an arrangement with the hotel. Our little crew of cheaters and wannabes decided we'd take our men there on the last day of February, leap night, to reconnect with our spouses and each other. You and Tommy were staying overnight with the porters, and we all had hotel rooms. What our husbands didn't understand was that showing up there with our men was like buying raffle tickets. Mark Lavalier would be taking one lucky lady away for the evening and making her his whore. That was why the night out was so exciting for us girls. My eyes went to the screen. Mark Lavalier. The commentator on the left. His name was in a graphic under his chest. Yes, that's him. Or, as you came to know him, that's Mommy's asshole boyfriend. The bottom fell out of my reality and I was instantly dizzy and sick. Asshole. You remember? Not really. Something about spending the night at Nana and P-Pop's. And Dad was gone for a while. You were really sad. You were 6 years old. We did what we could to protect you. I wouldn't expect you to remember any of this. Your father vanished for weeks. I only saw him once in all that time. We met with a marriage counselor, a neutral third party, so that I wouldn't manipulate him or try to get him back under control, as he put it. He was correct, that's exactly what I meant to do. Anyway, it was a disaster, and then he stormed off to Atlanta for 10 days. I didn't know where he'd gone until later. That was when he started taking all those temporary work assignments out of town. I chased him away from the marriage. He was so very angry with me. And he was right to feel that way. I treated him like absolute shit. Mark had come over to our table and took me away for a dance. He didn't even ask. He danced with me for several numbers and told me to sneak out the back with him. I crept back to our table to collect my purse, and I had to face Jim, who'd been forced to watch the whole thing. I could barely look him in the eye. Dee covered for me, making some excuse and keeping Jim busy so I could get away. That was the last moment I was married to your father. The estrangement and divorce took another 1.5 years, but that's when it really ended. I'm sorry. That sounds awful. It was beyond awful. But it wasn't the worst part. God. What was worse? Why it happened. I would have eventually ruined my marriage whether Mark the asshole had chosen me that night or not. Remember, I did pretty much the same thing 3 more times, 3 different ways, to 3 more husbands. And I never let myself see why. I was too self-absorbed and entitled. Just like you are, right now. I'm not. Shoo. I said I couldn't see it at the time. Neither can you. Only the right perspective will reveal it. That's why we're talking. This is a kind of an intervention, you see. We're all hoping that my story will give you enough insight to turn yourself around before it's too late, if it isn't already. Let me tell you what was in my head. I had a good marriage with Jim. He loved me, and I loved him. We were deeply, powerfully committed to each other. Nothing could ever break us. We had our children and our happy home. There was too much at stake for anything to disrupt that. Jim was a good man, a good husband, and the strongest spirit I'd ever known. There was surely nothing he wouldn't forgive me for. He'd conquer every fear, every silly male insecurity. He'd overcome his own ego, just to love me and keep me and make sure I was happy. Mom. Please. I know this is hard to hear, that's the point. I had an opportunity. A once-in-a-lifetime event. I was chosen. Mark Lavalier, a god among men, was going to turn me into a glamorous, free, sexy, uninhibited goddess. I'd always have that one magical perfect night and the best sex of my life, the best sex any woman would ever want, and then I'd get to go back home to my loving husband afterwards. Sure, Jim's feelings would be hurt for a while, but he didn't own me. I could do as I wanted just this once. He'd get over it eventually, and I'd spend the rest of my life making it up to him. I awoke with a cold cloth on my forehead, in one of Mom's recliners with my feet elevated. She touched a straw to my mouth. It was water, in a plastic tumbler with a lid. You fainted, dear. Mom. It's okay. I was prepared for this. I fainted, once, too, while in marriage counseling with your father. He confronted me with something ugly that I'd been lying to myself about. She offered me the plate of cookies. These will help get your blood sugar up. How long was I out? About 30 minutes. I'm sure it didn't help that you were tired when you got here. It's almost 2 in the morning. I should go to bed. You won't sleep. Trust me. I think I will. Not if anything I said sounded like what's been rattling around in that bean of yours. It should be pure nightmare fuel. And I think it rang a few bells, didn't it? Yeah. I guess so. You're my child. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I'm certain this Richard Taylor is cut from the same cloth as Mark. Her blue dress in its clear bag was right next to me. They really were the exact same color. I took a cookie and drank more water, not saying anything. Am I my mother's daughter? Am I doomed to ruin every marriage I'm a part of? Do I have such faith in my husband that I take him for granted while I cheat on him with other men? I mean, I haven't cheated. Not yet. Not technically. But you were going to, let's not kid ourselves. Shut up, little voice. No, not this time. You better start paying attention to me or it's lights out for your marriage. Little voices arguing in your head? She asked. How'd you know? That's what happens when you're conflicted. It's a good sign. She sighed. I'm afraid I had a real talent for shutting down the one that I knew was right. See? I'm supposed to be the one who's a clinical psychologist. Didn't you tell me that the one person a clinical psychologist isn't qualified to diagnose and treat is herself? Yes. Stop being right, please. Oh, no, Emma. I spent most of my life with my head so far up my own butt that I could practically see out my belly button. I know all the things you've been telling yourself about how it's perfectly okay to offer yourself up to another man. It's exciting, and it makes me feel alive and worthy. And it's no risk if Bradley doesn't know, but even if he does, he's such a good man that he's sure to forgive me or accommodate my indiscretions somehow. That kind of thinking is a drug. You'll overdose on it and hurt yourself. You might even kill yourself with it. And if it was just you, just your own life, well, that would be tragic, but at least it'd be isolated to you. But it's not. It affects Bradley, too. And Braylon. And Caden. And Tommy. And me. And don't forget your father. Watching 3 generations of Johnson women fall to the same pattern of self-destruction would be more than he could take. 3 generations? Nana never cheated on P-Pup, did she? Not that I know of. But she's not a Johnson, she's a Reed. I was talking about Gamma Carol. She cheated on Bob? No, she cheated on James, Jim's father. While he was sick and dying, she had a boyfriend named Ralph. After James passed, she married the man. It didn't last. They were both cheaters, so there was no trust. She met Bob in some cancer family support group a few years later. Jim barely spoke to his mother for 6 or 7 years. He blamed her for his father's death. Not for the cancer, but because James had lost the will to live. He'd found out about Ralph right away and didn't last long after that. You were just a baby. I'm not surprised you didn't know any of this. I only got to know Gamma Carol and Bob when we started going to visit them in Colorado. I think you and Dad were already divorced by then. That's right. Our divorce was when he started talking to her again. He forgave her? Eventually. But it was always a sore spot. Carol blamed herself for James' death, too. She and Jim agreed about that. It helped them bridge the divide. And then Jim made friends with Bob, who hadn't done anything wrong. So, Dad forgave his mother. But he didn't forgive you. He did, eventually. At your wedding, in fact. It took him 20 years, and I didn't even deserve it then. I'd been completely unrepentant. I told him I'm sorry, any number of times, but it was always about what it cost us. It was always about his hurt feelings, which I clearly believed were his fault. I'd never actually been sorry for my affair. I'm ashamed to say I was proud of it. My pride was the whole point. It didn't sound like it was an affair. It was just one night, right? No. No? Mom looked even more distraught. Emma, I'm terrified of being single. I've never done it. I wouldn't know how to exist. I haven't been single for even one full day of my life since I was 16. When one relationship was about to end, I always made sure to have another one all set up and ready to go. I could never face the possibility of being alone. Your father was so much smarter about it. Han, I was. He had the wisdom to give himself the time to figure himself out before he got seriously involved with anyone else. I don't know how he managed it. I gave Mark my number that first night. We were calling and messaging each other after that. And even though we didn't plan on it, he caught me at another one of his pickup spots 2 weeks later. It was St. Patrick's Day at one of those Irish pubs, and I behaved just as shamefully. When my marriage was hanging in the balance, I kept seeing him, quietly, on and off, even while I was still trying to patch things up with your father. I thought that it didn't have anything to do with my relationship with Jim, and what he didn't know wouldn't hurt him. God, I can't even believe it myself. So stupid. So foolish. I even pretended to break up with Mark. We staged a phone call where I told him to leave me alone and never speak to me again, and I played the recording for Jim. But Mark kept up with me until he was certain my divorce was a done deal. Then he moved on to a new conquest of another married woman. I think her name was Maureen. It didn't matter. I'd already arranged to marry Jeff by then. Mom! You need to understand the whole story. This isn't just about your father, and Mark the asshole, because it goes on and on. Jeff was a good guy, but he was no Jim. I married him because he was there. I might have made it work if I tried, but I didn't. I was committed to raising you and Tommy in the family home. That meant that I was only ever a part-time wife. I'd made up my mind that if Jeff loved me, then he'd accept it. He'd have to accept it. He had no choice, because he was a good guy. If he was a good husband, he'd go along with it. It didn't matter what he thought or how he felt. I was doing what I needed to do, for me. It wasn't supposed to affect our relationship. It was outside of our marriage, and he'd just have to deal with it. It didn't mean I loved him any less, and I wasn't really taking anything away from him. Do you hear me? Mom! I started to feel dizzy and sick again. I'm not finished. After Jeff, there was Danny. I decided that I needed a more open-ended relationship than I had with Jeff if I was going to spend time away from the marriage. That's what attracted me to him. Danny was all about being open, if you understand what I mean. He was open to having other partners since I wasn't always around. We weren't swingers, not exactly. He just cheated on me and I turned a blind eye towards it. It was understood. I even accepted it as my penance. And things were fine. Mostly. I didn't love him. Not exactly. Not like that. I did a little, I guess, enough to marry him. Our arrangement lasted a while, but towards the end, when you two weren't so little anymore, I wasn't getting the attention I needed. He was too distracted with his other life. So, I sought that attention elsewhere, more deliberately, this time. I figured that if an open marriage was good enough for him, then it was good enough for me. Surely, he'd cut me the same slack I'd allowed him for the last 6 or 7 years, right? I was getting what I needed, and it wasn't affecting him. Well, no. I miscalculated. I could see the end coming, and that's when I started things with Glenn. Mother, I don't need to know all this. Yes, honey, you do. Don't you see the pattern yet? Glenn was a good man. He was the best of my husbands since your father. He tried. I tried. I really did. But I couldn't help myself. I took him for granted. I took too many liberties. I figured he'd forgive me, no matter what I did. Our biggest fight was after your wedding, which I'd spent basically ignoring him. I was too caught up with trying to reconcile with your father, not to get back with him or anything, just to get closure, and Jim had to point out to me that I wasn't attending to my husband. I was treating Glenn with complete disregard. Just like I had with him. And Jeff. And Danny. She was weeping openly. I could only stare at her. Emma. I am a selfish, thoughtless bitch. I have always been a selfish, thoughtless bitch. I will probably always be a selfish, thoughtless bitch. That's why I'm married to Doug now. Because at least I won't be able to hurt him. Not like that. I don't have his heart. At that, she broke down crying again. I put my hand on her shoulder, trying to comfort her. And you. She finally choked out, you're just like me. Mom. You think you can flounce off to Chicago to serve yourself up to another man, to a hollow, charismatic womanizer like that, while Bradley stays at home with the kids and waits for you to be done getting fucked? Just like I did with Jim? And Danny? You think that works? Because they're good men who have no choice but to forgive you? Because you're married, and have a house, and have kids, and they're stuck with you? Because you're entitled to it? Because you need to feel sexy, and free, and you need to have men looking at you in a blue dress and making you feel pretty? And you think you can get away with it? Oh, no, honey. Fuck that. Fuck you. You might as well flush your rings down the toilet right now and give Bradley whatever he wants in the divorce. That was as far as I got before I felt a wave of nausea rock me back. Then it became a tsunami and I staggered and fell over on my ass. My arms were shaking as I frantically clawed my way to the bathroom and barely made it to the toilet before appending my guts into the bowl. Mom was right with me, holding my hair as I heaved. There you go. Let it out. Let all that bad stuff out. You see it now, don't you? You see. I burned my own life down. I've ruined everything, again and again. I never stopped. Don't you dare do the same. I don't know how it's possible to cry and vomit at the same time, but I did it. My head was as churned up as my belly, you stupid, stupid, stupid bitch. Why did you think this was a good idea? What the fuck is wrong with you? How would you feel if he did this to you? You fucking saw it coming. Bradley saw it from a mile away, and so did everybody else, you dumb slut. Didn't he say he'd been warned about you? You don't deserve your husband. You don't deserve love. You don't deserve Braylon and Caden and your happy home. You don't deserve to be married to anyone. You're going to end up just like your mother. You think like her, you act like her, you even look like her, and you're going down the same goddamn stupid slutty path. You're gonna end up, alone, after however many meaningless marriages, in the same kind of hell. After what felt like 9 years of that, Mom gave me some mouthwash and made me eat 2 more cookies. She said the ginger would settle my stomach. She brushed my hair and let me change my clothes. I didn't even have to go into the bag I'd packed. We're the same size, I could wear any of her clothes, so she gave me some comfy sweats and keds. She bundled me in her car and drove me 2 miles to Tommy and Bernice's house. She's all cried out, Mom said to my brother as she unloaded me. She knows what she did now. She got the message. Just put her straight to bed. I'll join you for pancakes whenever she gets up and gets herself together. Thanks, Mom, he said. I know you want to see Jonathan and the baby, but they're both asleep right now. We take that whenever we can get it. I understand. I know how that is. She kissed him. I love you. I'll see you at a more decent hour. Tom ushered me inside, straight to the nursery room they weren't using yet. Little Lila was asleep with her mother in the master bedroom, in a kind of crib-like extension they'd installed at the side of their bed. It was adorable. I'm not going to lecture you, sis, he said. I'm sure Mom did enough of that. And I know you're going to spend the rest of the night processing everything, whether or not you're able to sleep. I hope you will. There's just one more thing you should know tonight. It's about Bradley. What is it? Have you talked to him? Is he all right? He's fine. I haven't talked to him since you left your house. It's just... Okay, I know you know him a lot better than I do. He's your husband, after all. But there's something I'm not sure you've ever seen in him. In a man-to-man kind of way, in a brother-to-brother-in-law sense. I need to tell you that he is a fighter. You better listen to this, Emma. My brother was an Olympic fencer. He works as a combat consultant and choreographer for movies and theater productions. It's a really cool job, yes, and he makes everything look all flashy and spectacular, but he sure as hell knows what a real bout is like. So when he says fighter, it means something. He's showing respect. I mean, he wouldn't know one end of a sword from another. He's not a combatant, he qualified. I don't even know if he's ever been in a real fight. And he's a half-hearted gamer and strategist, at best. But when it comes to you, and when it comes to his family, the man is a warrior. He's a fucking Navy SEAL. He's Sun Tzu. He's a juggernaut. There is nothing he would not or could not do to keep you safe and keep the family together. He'll be unstoppable. So, the next time that you try to pull something like this, and I really hope there isn't a next time, he'll be ready. You'll be outmatched and outmaneuvered. You're not going to win. You don't even stand a chance. He won't be fooled, and you won't get away with jack shit. He will burn down the world before he lets you turn out anything like Mom. God, I hope that's true. Okay. Thank you. And hey, Tommy? Yes? Who warned him about me? Dad did. Right before you got married. He got a version of the son-in-law talk. I got a different take on the same thing before I married Bern. Dad has, well, an unfortunately unique perspective on marriage and on human nature. I hate to say it, But we've been ready for a long time, just in case you ever tried to pull a Linda. Don't tell Daddy. I mean, if he doesn't know. I don't want to hurt him. I didn't do it. It didn't happen. It won't happen now. Thank you for stopping me. Anything for you, sis? He leaned down and kissed my forehead. Next time, stop yourself first. I slept like the dead. The next morning was a familiar pandemonium of overstimulated children and lost shoes and unbrushed teeth, just in a different household. Mine had calmed down a bit since our kids weren't toddlers anymore, and I was surprised that I kind of missed it. Bernice is a great mom and a world-class beauty, by the way, with her delicate Belgian accent, white blonde hair, cornflower blue eyes and tight little gymnast's body. Just 7 months after giving birth to their second child, she'd already snapped right back to where she was, but with slightly bigger boobs. Unthinkable. It's a good thing my brother's a warrior, too. He'll be chasing men away from her until she's 90. The pancakes were the best I'd ever eaten. Nothing makes food taste better, the sun shine brighter, or all the colors in the world seem more vibrant and beautiful than emotional catharsis and the hope of better days. Mom drove my car to join us at the restaurant. Our conversation was mercifully free from the subjects of Chicago, football, psychology conferences, dancing, Richard Taylor, and Mark Lavalier. Mom walked me to my car afterwards. She'd get a ride home with them. I left you a little something in the back, she told me. It's my blue dress. I don't want it anymore. I'm sure it'll look good on you. I know it went out of style a long time ago, but I think it's come back once or twice. I guess we can call it vintage. She gave herself a little half shrug. You're a grown woman, a beautiful woman. You'll make your own choices. Do what you want with it. Just please try not to do what I did. Don't use it to break your husband's heart. And for God's sake, don't ever let your father see you wearing it. You'd be sure to give him a heart attack. I won't, Mom. Thank you. Have a safe trip home. I love you. Love you, too. Thank you. Thanks for everything. I sent 2 messages before I put the car in motion. Richard, I'm not coming to Chicago. Cancel the plane tickets. Cancel the room you were planning for me to not use. Cancel my attendance at the conference and see if you can get yourself a refund for the fee. Find yourself some other whore. I recommend choosing an unmarried slut next time. Fuck you for threatening my marriage and family. Fuck you for almost destroying my life. Don't talk to me again in anything other than a professional capacity, and let's try to keep that to a bare minimum. Oh, and for your own safety, try to steer clear of my husband and my brother. They know everything. They saw you coming before you even showed up, and God knows what they'll do if either one of them sees you in person. Bradley, I learned the whole story. Tommy and Mom are sending me home to you now. I'm so sorry about all of this. I'm sorry I made you worry. I'm sorry I gave you cause to doubt me. I'll never even think of doing anything like that again. I'll never take you for granted. I'll never underestimate you. I'll always put you first and last and always. Thank you for stopping me before it was too late. Now that I understand the family curse, I promise I'll be the one to stop myself from now on. I love you so much. I always have and always will. You deserve far better from me than the neglect, disrespect, and foolishness I've shown you. I promise you, forever, that I will never pull a Linda. As I started the long drive home, I suddenly knew what I was going to do with Mom's blue dress. I was going to burn the goddamn thing.